What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
And the movie that we're here to review today, folks, sort of got comic booky vibes to it.
You can say that.
And that is Samaritan, latest Amazon Prime Video exclusive.
This was an MGM video that probably would have had a theatrical release, but they merged with Amazon, so it got shelved to digital release.
Probably
a good thing they shelved this shit way up there on the shelf.
Probably a good thing that this didn't get a theatrical release. It's right where it belongs. Prime Video with like the lowest user base out of the streaming services.
Yeah.
But we got Samaritan, the super-powered garbage man. He'll collect your shit better than any other fucking garbage man out there. Tell you what.
Mm-hmm. He was palming those bags of trash.
And we got
shit.
And we got the evil grifter who's spreading bullshit to empower the working class. Where have we seen that story play out before, huh?
Hey, old man! Try this.
But this is actually directed by Julius Avery. We mentioned when we talked about this, when this trailer came out, I mentioned that he directed the zombie Nazi movie Overlord, which was actually a really good movie, in my opinion. We'll let you know if this one was just as good or better. But Sylvester Stallone starring, playing Joe. Javon Walton playing Sam Cleary, little boy. And some other people that I'm not really too sure. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. And Martin stars in this briefly, but the other main star of the movie is Pilu Asbæk. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. He plays our villain Cyrus. And
yes, he looks super familiar because he was in Game of Thrones. Yeah. He's got the crazy eyes, dude.
Oh yeah,
he's really good at the crazy eyes.
Well, he's a character actor, so generally character actors like they really get into like those roles where they could like take on this like sort of persona.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Samaritan is basically about a hero who has been in hiding for about 30 years. And we get a little bit of exposition in the beginning in the form of a very cheap
oh my God,
After Effects
That's the
filter.
setup. Yeah.
That video intro was so cheesy. I did not like it at all. It would have been better if they just did actual comic book pages with the voiceover, or maybe just remove the weird ass filter over the video because it's not good. It wasn't good.
Well, it seems like this movie had very little budget to play with. Probably it probably all went to Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, because the CGI was terrible.
Oh my God, yeah. Well,
the little glimpses of it, even you see it for a second, and like, that's still bad. I don't even want to see that shit.
Yeah. But so this exposition early in the movie tells the story of two super-powered twins who go on to be
twins,
hero and a villain, Samaritan and Nemesis.
The yin and the yang.
Nemesis, apparently they couldn't come up with a better villain name than Nemesis. So that was a bit odd. Yeah, so we're in modern day setting, and we get some breadcrumbs that Samaritan might not be dead. We get this little boy who I mentioned, played by Sam Cleary. He's played by Javon Walton, and he's a bit of a fanboy. He loves these stories of Samaritan, and he's got a bit of a fantasy that Samaritan's still out there somehow, and he sees him in different people, his school janitor, the mailman, and this time his neighbor Joe, who helps him out of a fight. Now, you know, if you're a kid, right, it's like this plays on that trope of like, oh, a kid has some like fantastical theory that nobody's going to believe because he's a cute little kid. Well, you know, how do you get people to believe you? Well, in this kid's case, it's like, well, maybe if I go out and get the shit kicked out of me a bunch of times, Samaritan will have to save me eventually.
Right.
That's basically more or less the the plot, or what little of a plot there is in this movie. And we'll get into some more specific stuff later. There's a pretty big twist that we want to talk about, but I want to save that for a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that big.
It's not that big. I figured it out literally in like the first 30 seconds of
I
the
was
movie.
gonna say, I'm pretty sure like you figured it out instantly.
Yeah, that's
like,
well.
normal.
I mean,
I did.
The exposition of the beginning of the movie sets you up such that you're like, oh, okay, so Samaritan beat his brother and then went into hiding, and this is going to be a story about him coming out of hiding.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
like, if you think it through further, like, well, maybe it's not Samaritan, maybe it's Nemesis.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of breadcrumbs a little bit further along, then nothing until the very end. And you're like, oh my God, I never saw that coming. But really, it's not very original.
Unless you're me.
Well, see, I disagree though with you. And that's why I was like, we'll talk about it in a little bit, because it's actually my major issue with the movie. I mean, there's a lot, but that's like the centerpiece. So we'll go through that in a second. But the superhero genre is obviously overrated. I mean, oversaturated, right?
Yes.
It's everywhere. You got the success of the MCU, like it has spawned countless attempts from other, production companies and stuff to sort of recreate that magic, bring in some money. But what's even more played out is the reluctant hero trope. Okay?
Yeah, that's so played out. You're right.
And it's because it's not very often done well, if ever. Zack Snyder tried to do the reluctant hero take, but he just tried to do it with the least reluctant character in human history. So that didn't work out too well. What are you going to say, Dusty?
I think it was done pretty well in the 80s and 90s. I mean, we didn't really have a lot of superheroes per se in those times. It was really more of action heroes.
Yes.
And a lot of it was reluctant action heroes. So you had like these heroes and these action heroes in the 80s and 90s. And then once you got into the 2000s and so on, CGI gets better. They can advance the technology and be like, now we can do superheroes and we can do them right. So it's just an evolution. And now we're like, what are we going to do next? Because it feels like we're just regurgitating everything we've seen.
And that's my number one issue with this movie here. Budget and stuff aside, like whatever. This is really just a derivative of like a lot of other movies like it. Not exactly similar, but I think movies like RoboCop, The Crow, Unbreakable, Hitch, and even Batman to some extent.
Hitch,
yeah. With Will Smith. Not Hitch, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of
fucking Paul Blart.
No, Hitch is the one with Paul Blart. What's the one you're thinking?
That's what I'm saying. You said Hitch.
Because Hitch is a great movie. It's a great rom-com.
Yeah, it is. It's fucking hilarious.
But what's the one where he's the fucking alcoholic?
Hancock.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hancock.
Kevin James.
Yeah,
is great in Hitch, by the way.
He is. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a fucking great rom-com.
We're on this line.
So good.
But yes,
Hancock. It's very Hancock. Yes.
And so this movie Samaritan pulls little bits and pieces from like all of these things. Batman, like not so much, but there's still elements of Batman in there. You got like the fucking decrepit, dying city that's disgusting and poor and broke and like crime riddled and all
Where
this
were
stuff.
the fucking cops at in this?
Where are the politicians? And
we
stuff?
see the cops one time, and they were dirty ass cops.
They were defunded. Yeah. But we've seen these elements and these story beats before, and this movie had a chance to do something a little bit different because of what we were just joking about. There was some underlying subtext to the movie about like class struggle and how a world in which superheroes exist can maybe rely a little too much on heroes, to that when the hero goes away and you're left to your own devices, everything goes to fucking shit.
Right.
And
the city didn't really go to shit until Cyrus got on top of the tow truck with the mask with his terrible lip syncing.
Well, that's why I made the joke about Trump early on. I don't know if you caught that, but I thought it was pretty on the nose about the evil grifter spreading bullshit to cause an uprising among the working class. Cyrus, the villain in the film, Cyrus, he is more in line with what his what he thinks Nemesis's viewpoint was. He says in the movie at one point, Nemesis was like a hero of the working class. He always punched up, while Samaritan was helping the billionaires and shit like that.
Yeah, he said he's really not a villain in the typical sense.
Mm-hmm.
Beats people that need it.
Yeah.
He compares Samaritan to just another cop or whatever.
Right.
But do you think he was just seeing Nemesis through these rose-colored glasses?
I don't personally.
Or maybe was Nemesis like a little Punisher-esque?
Well, there again and lies my thing with the movie. This movie had a chance to do something like super fucking interesting and cool and tell two stories. One of a Punisher type of guy who goes a little bit maybe too far in his form of what justice is. And the other guy, the goody two-shoes, the Superman, the Captain America guy who, kind of plays by the rules and does things his way. And they only give you little bits and pieces and breadcrumbs of that, but they never actually really explain to you what the fuck either of these two characters were. You just are told, like, one's a hero, one's bad. And the twist, folks, in this film, as we touched on, while we think Sylvester Stallone's Joe is actually Samaritan, it turns out he's not. He's actually Nemesis.
Yeah.
And he's living this life in hiding because the movie shows you him letting his brother die or like at the last minute trying to save him. But beyond that, we have no fucking idea what this guy's deal is.
It was a big missed opportunity to expound upon the lineage between the two brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And what really happened. Like they show a flashback of what kind of like the floor fell through their gripping arms and then he's falling. Like, did he let him go? Did he let himself go? Like, do we really know? Like, it doesn't seem to be like, instead we got this weird story of this like kid who wants this to be Samaritan when it's actually Nemesis. And this kid is like, his psychosis grows further and further. Like he gets crazy and starts punching people and becomes a little lunatic. But
in one of the flashbacks, we hear Samaritan speaking, the actual Samaritan. And I swear to God,
Spanish.
He's Hispanic.
Yeah, I noticed.
How are they fucking twins?
I noticed that too. I laughed.
It threw me off so bad. And then we found out that Joe is actually Nemesis. But aren't they brothers? Like
supposedly. Well, so Joe
maybe they were adopted or something, but they said they were twins.
Yeah, I don't really know.
My hearing was off.
No, I thought the same thing. They throw all this stuff at Joe. These things like, oh, he's a garbage man and he's like kind of a loner and he's collecting like old electronics and fixes them and then sells them. But why does he? So they throw like all these things at him in an attempt to actually give him some character. When all they really had to do was like flesh out like
the backstory.
Were you a villain or were you sort of like just a more aggressive like version of a hero?
Right.
So I took it a very specific way, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But again, going back to like this like underlying theme of like class and like class struggle and like we're like living in a less obviously severe version of this city, Granite City, dealing with like, a rise in crime and desperation and lack of jobs and like a housing crisis and like an economic crisis. We're like living in this stuff now in real life. And there's just a lot of themes that could have been explored there that aren't. We just get a guy jumping up on a car saying like, follow me. And everybody's like, who the fuck is that guy? I don't know.
Yo, is that Nemesis?
Yo, what did he say? I don't know, but I'm going to follow him anyway because he's yelling on top of a car.
Terrible fucking lip sync, by the way.
Yeah,
looked like a goddamn kung fu movie with the fucking man.
There was a lot of that. And there's a moment where like, we see Sam, him and his mom like are struggling and she's like working as a nurse and not making enough money. And there's one point they have like an eviction notice on their door. So Sam does some questionable gang related things to earn a buck. He fucking collects scrap metal with a friend of his to sell it. And that's actually something that happens. I seen that on a Vice documentary a while back in Detroit specifically.
That was Copper, right?
It was Copper, yeah. Did we watch that like on your stream when you were streaming?
Maybe. I don't know.
Unless we watched it separately. But I do remember the Vice documentary. It's like people make a lot of money doing that. They go around like all these destitute buildings and stuff and collect copper and sell it. So there was a lot of like elements of reality in there that I would have liked to see sort of like fleshed out a little bit more. But talking back about Joe and him like fixing shit, he mentions very briefly that it helps him to relax. So I took all of this once the reveal is there of like Nemesis. Oh, he's Nemesis. I knew the whole time, but still, I was like, huh, okay, so he's doing this to relax. Maybe he's got a little bit of a temper issue, and you kind of see that like play out a little bit. So maybe him and his brother just again had differing views on how to like achieve the same goal, or maybe he really is a hero of the working class that his brother just sort of like put a bad spin on it. But we got like no backstory into these two guys
at all.
So it's like, well, what the fuck? Why am I watching any of this? And again, that was my main issue with the movie. Like they throw all these little breadcrumbs and stuff, but they never really had the they never committed to any of those things. They just sort of defaulted back into these old tropes that we've seen so many times.
It was weird because I found myself checking the time a lot. Felt like it was dragging on, this movie.
It didn't have to be 2 hours.
It didn't really seem like they used the time well, because we could have gotten a lot more of that backstory on Samaritan and Nemesis instead of whatever it is we got as all this filler throughout this movie. Yeah.
By the time you even get to the point of the big reveal, it's like too late. I'm like not even interested anymore.
Yeah.
All that being said, that last 20 minutes of the movie is probably the best part of the movie. That like action sequence where he fucking shows up in his garbage man truck.
Yeah.
Fucks people up.
It was pretty good. His age was definitely showing a little bit in those fight scenes, right? He was moving slower than Snoop Dogg was in fucking Day Shift.
Talking about his age, there's a scene where they do a flashback and they de-age him. That shit was so bad. It looked like a fucking video game cutscene. I fucking had to grab my controller. I was like, oh shit, gotta get ready for the gameplay to kick back in. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like. I had texted you guys and I was like, this is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen in my life. I didn't actually really feel that way by the end of it. It wasn't a good movie. It wasn't it wasn't bad enough to make me be like, oh fuck this. While I was watching it, but the movie was pretty bland.
It was.
And, I've said this many times that being bland and just mediocre is worse to me than being bad. You look at a movie like Morbius. Morbius is unanimously terrible, but even that shit spawned like a meme. It's Morbin time. Like, it's in like the cultural zeitgeist now. This movie is just going to be forgotten in like a minute. If anybody watches it at all.
I feel like we're in this time of movies where somebody, even an original, because we're in remakes and redo so much, that somebody has a good idea. It's just so poorly executed.
Yeah,
that we're disappointed and we dismiss it. And we're like, all right, well, on to the next one, because it's just pumping out so much shit.
Yeah,
right.
Well, again, there were so many things that this movie didn't like capitalize on in terms of opportunity. Like you have like the adult kid like buddy trope, and then you have like the fucking villain is like a cartoon character. Sometimes he has superpowers apparently, sometimes he doesn't. Like his motivation made no fucking sense. It was just like, I'm gonna blow up this place that fucking this person that I apparently built my whole fucking persona around tried to do one time with no context for why. Meanwhile, he had like a thriving criminal empire, had to do none of this. Like he could have just kept going and he was fine. Like his shit was running smooth.
Yeah, they were like a cult following of Nemesis, but they didn't explain why at all. Like they had tattoos on their faces and he had a tattoo on his chest. Like, but they don't go into why.
There's like one or two lines of dialogue where he says to Samaritan, he says to Joe at one point, who he thinks is Samaritan at this point in the film, you never really came around my part of town. So you get the idea that like, this is why I say the breadcrumb was that like maybe Samaritan did do good stuff, but only for like in like the rich parts of town, right? Like he was
Nemesis was the Robin Hood.
Yes.
Of the poor people.
And that's why I say there was this like underlying thread of like class struggle and class warfare between these two heroes, but they never ever ever actually went into it. It was like left for me to figure that out. And I could be wrong. We could have just completely misinterpreting that. If fucking the writers watch this podcast, they're going to be like, oh, shit, why didn't we think of that?
It's a missed opportunity is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the brother Nemesis apparently hated Samaritan. And we were with Nemesis this whole time and got no type of even like sight into that. Why did he hate his brother so much?
Well, right. And but the only insight you get into him is like, we're meant to think he's like a villain this whole time. But here he is helping this kid, and like, he's obviously not a bad guy. Maybe he's got a little temper issue.
Yeah.
So like, what's the deal? We don't know. Who knows?
We don't know.
I wonder if the writers even know. But yeah, some of the other characters, like I was saying, the villain, not great. Your standard, and like we discussed early on, that guy's a good actor. And some of the stuff he had, like what little he had to work with, I think he was like pretty decent overall.
Yeah.
Stallone was just Stallone, really.
I think the chemistry was good between him and the kid. It was pretty good.
I think that was more on the kid, honestly, because the kid was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He did all right. I thought it was weird the way they portrayed him a couple of times. Like when he went crazy.
Yeah, there were some moments where he like fucking roids
this kid's
out.
a little psychotic. I'm not getting it, but sure taking the energy.
Again.
It's Granite City, bro. It's hard times. It's basically New York.
Maybe I read like way too much into this movie, but like you know, it's a storyline that we see play out in real life about like, you know, violence in inner cities, and like the source of that, like the root cause of that, never is actually talked about in real life. The media never talks about that. They use it as ways to talk about like, you know, gun law issues and like Democrat versus Republican stuff. But the root cause of it, which is a city in decline without any outside help.
Yep.
Like people, when that's what their life is, and they turn to crime, usually in desperation.
Yep.
And that's how I took
you need
what this kid was doing.
positive role models. Like the kid didn't have anybody.
Right.
Yeah. So that, I mean, and that's what I like. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but like, again, another area where it's like, had they expanded on that a little bit, could have been good. Oh, I think just the writing was pretty bad in the movie overall. Like a lot of the dialogue was pretty weak, and like points where it was like cheesy and didn't make sense. I mentioned that boxing scene on the roof. It was set up so that the kid was supposed to meet Joe on the roof to train to fight, and he comes and the kid's like, "Sorry, I'm late," and he's like, "It's all right." And then there's just like a weird pause, like, "What the? Who wrote this?" I just feel like if they took just a little bit of extra time, you know, you don't need a fucking Marvel budget to make a good movie, right?
That's true. Yeah. 100%.
You don't need to have like an amazing fucking award-winning script. But if you just took a little extra time to flesh out some of these ideas, this movie would have been so much better. Even if the twist, let's say the twist didn't go the way we're describing it, as like, you know, he's a hero of the working class while Samaritan was like a hero of like the upper class. What if like by the time the twist is revealed, he just fucking freaks out, and all his rage, he fucking just slaughters this fucking warehouse full of people. And it's like, oh shit. Like there's so many different ways that they could have done things differently, but I don't know. It just kind of left me feeling a little bit like meh, bland movie. Not
I
so
agree,
great.
dude. A couple of plot holes too, or just more stuff that wasn't explained. Like the scarring on his back, they focused on it a couple of times, but who knows why? No fucking clue.
Well, I think it was because of the fire.
Oh, okay. But he didn't fall in the fire. His brother did.
Oh, well, yeah, that became a plot hole by the reveal, yeah.
And he had all the ice cream in the fridge, we found out, to cool himself, right? After he gets hurt.
Yeah.
But no regular food.
Well, again,
he just doesn't eat.
Those were just things, like I said, they just threw all these random thoughts at the guy to give him some like illusion of character. It's like, oh, he overheats and his heart explodes, so he eats ice cream to cool down. It's like, my eyes couldn't have squinted any tighter, like as they start to like reveal this shit. It's like, okay, you could leave literally all this out, and again, take some time and a little bit of effort to explore the other things and make him a much cooler character.
Right? Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Oh, another thing we were talking about when we watched the trailer was when he dismantled the gun and stabbed the guy with the slide.
Yeah.
Like watching it again, I thought it was cool in the trailer, but watching it in the actual movie, You're right, Dan. That shit was corny. That shit was not.
I mean, because you got fucking. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to disrespect the guy, but you got fucking Stallone, who's like fucking 80 at this point.
Yeah.
He's out here looking like
wanted to do his own stunts.
He's looking like the bloated fucking zombie from the first season of Walking Dead that they found in the well, and he's kind of just like lumbering around, like doing these fucking fight moves.
Yeah.
Most of this movie's budget probably went to wire work because he's just tossing people all over the place. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I got to say about it. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
I did despise that little munchkin motherfucker with the colored hair.
Oh yeah,
good lord, what a little cunt! When he got knocked out on the roof and Cyrus was laughing, I was like, "Ha!"
Oh yeah,
that was good.
Got him.
That was great.
Yeah.
You get knocked out by a 13-year-old twice.
All right. Well, IMDb 5.9, not real good. I'd have to agree. This is definitely in the mid fives for me. Dusty?
Yeah, it's another forgettable 5. It's not good. It's not terrible.
You look a little brokenhearted. You were looking forward to this movie. I know you were.
I mean, I'm more looking forward to his next. This one was like I didn't even know it was coming out until I read about it like a few weeks ago. But I'm looking more forward to his next project, which is Tulsa King.
Yeah.
I actually did have hopes from the trailer. I was pretty excited. I was trying to give him his props, saying, he was looking pretty charismatic and all this, but it didn't hold up at all.
Yeah, my expectations were a little higher. Being somebody who's grown up a Stallone fan, or all the other action stars that I grew up watching it.
Right.
When they put something out that's a little bit different, I'm looking forward to it. But it is what it is. It happens. Yeah. Let's go next.
Yep. Go next. There you have it, folks.
Go next.
There's our thoughts on Samaritan. You can watch it right now on Amazon Prime if you should choose to do so. If you do or have watched it, let us know what you thought. You can reach out to us on Twitter and let us know. You can hit us up on our website, harshlanguage.tv, and let us know. And if you haven't, please be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, where we put out more videos like this. And we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Costa.